Good morning. Thank you for attending our CRMSEC Business Consortium Hot Sheet Live, where we're focusing today on PPP, Payroll Protection Program, new rules, and all that matters for minority businesses. So thank you very much for coming. We're about to start in a couple of minutes, but we just wanted some housekeeping items to share with you this. Any questions that you may have. And if we don't get to your question, we will make sure that we do it. But while you wait, you just have a couple more minutes before we go, make sure that you have all the important ingredients in place in order to do this. Now, every time we always talk about make sure that you stay out of the refrigerator for this hour, because if you don't, you'll miss something. And then we always talk about make sure you have your drink. Now, given what happened yesterday, regardless of your political affiliations, we say just have some Kamala drink on us. Actually, Joe Biden doesn't drink, so that's why we're saying the Kamala drink, but for other reasons as well. Have some champagne this morning so that we can celebrate the new dawn and the new day, and particularly our new vice president. So look what we're doing. We'll be right back within a moment. And if you know, I can't believe this is our 14th webinar, and we have plenty, 14 that you can view or 13 that you can view. Be right back in a moment. Make sure you make note of us on social media and use our tags. Thanks. Good morning. How are you? I'm back. I'm Sharon Pender. I'm President and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council, and I am also the operator of the MBDA Center, Washington, D.C., and the MBDA Federal Procurement Center as well. So thank you for joining us today. We're excited about this topic, and our mission in life is to add value to our minority business supplier community, our certified minority businesses, and others in general, and to also support our corporate members, particularly now as we are entering 2021, and we know that our businesses need information, need resources, and so it is our goal to be front and center in terms of the dissemination of key information. And so that's what today's conversation is about. So let me just quickly show you, and if you see in the handles, and if you also can look and share it with your social media as well, we certainly appreciate it. And thank you for spending this hour with us today. Guarantee you, I promise you, that you walk away with some nuggets. And so let's talk about the Okay. I know we're having some technical difficulties. it seems. And just trying to see kind of what's going on. So do pardon us. But in our agenda, we are in talk today. We're going to talk to one of our corporate members. I do apologize. We're going to talk to one of our corporate members and have a highlight and chat with them. And it's about a particular issue and situation I'd like for you to make sure that you know about. And then we're going to get right into the heart of things, our PPP presentation by Antonio Doss, District Director of the Washington Metropolitan Area District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration. And all along, we're going to be taking questions from you. I just want to check. I'm seeing in the chat that my audio still is not good. So if somebody can tell me about that before I move forward. I appreciate the feedback. We will correct this in just a moment. Okay, very, very good. All right, so first of all, I'd like to, when we begin our program, and I'll bring her on in just a moment, we'll have Kate Weaver, who is the Supply Diversity Manager for Peapod Digital Labs, a company of Ahold USA. And then we also have our headliner today, Antonio Doss, District Director of, as I said, Washington Metropolitan Area District Office of the SBA. Kate develops and oversees the retail business vendor diversity program. She works to engage and develop women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, and LGBTQ-owned businesses, as well as integrate them into the company's merchandising process. Antonio Doss is passionate about growing local economies and supporting the development needs of all entrepreneurs, including those from underserved communities. Throughout his career in government, community development, and finance, Antonio has established an earned reputation for demonstrating sound leadership, integrity, and a firm commitment to helping others. I also want to note, and you'll see them later, Tommy Marks, Director of our Federal Procurement Center, and Sonia Bigelow-Smith, who was Director of Business Development. Also, our MBDA CARES Act Project Manager will be filtering questions for us as well. And so if we can bring on our first guest, that would be awesome. And this is Kate Weaver. Good morning, Kate. Can you hear me okay? Because it looks like we were having some technical difficulties before, and so I apologize for the delay.
No, I'm fine. I can hear you, and thank you for having me, Sharon.
Great. Kay, in December, Giant Foods did something phenomenal that people need to know because we want them to support the effort. And Giant Foods made the announcement in December that they were going to be highlighting products that are made by minority businesses. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, for those of you who aren't familiar with the name Ahold Delhaize, that's our big parent company. And then even within that, we have Peapod Digital Labs, which is where I sit in the supplier diversity sourcing. But those of you who are in this area, you are familiar with the name Giant Food, which is the grocery store in Maryland, Virginia, DC, and Delaware. So it took about 6 months working with both the marketing and merchandising and operations team. But I'd like to say that I persisted, and I really illustrated a business case to them to say, hey, it's time to get our supplier diversity program out of the back stock room and to call it out to consumers at the shelf level. So with their help and their support, we were able to tag and identify over 3,000 individual SKUs or individual products that now our customers can walk up and down the aisles and see very clearly denoted with a big old shelf tag that hangs off the shelf that says either Black owned or Hispanic owned or woman owned or Asian owned or veteran owned or LGBT owned. And we're just really excited about the forward momentum that we have from this program.
You know, Kate, you guys need to be congratulated. This is a bold move in terms of what you're trying to do. Giant, the largest grocer in the DMV. How many stores do you have in this area?
I believe we have total with the Giant Food banner, we have 168 stores.
And that's in Maryland, the District of Columbia, and Virginia as well, correct? In our territory.
And DC, yes.
Okay, and so everybody is not happy about this. I'll say that. And so what we need folks to do is, if we can, let's have some pride about our Black-owned brands and ultimately all of our minority-owned business brands. Go to Giant. Please shop for brands that are made by minority-owned businesses. This particular phase of it is Black-owned businesses. We'll provide that list. Snap what we call Kate, a shelfie. Yeah. And send it to us and tag at Giant Food, if you would, and send it to us. And we're going to have sort of a prize for the best shelfie. And so, Kate, I looked in the circle yesterday, and it looks like Capital City Mambo sauce is on sale this week. And so, just as what you might want to do, but we will provide you all those. How many products Giant now have?
Yeah, it's over 2,000 tags we were able to put out, but I love this list because what we all were able to do is really extract the NMSDC certified MBEs that are on the shelf. We did require certification for all of our suppliers on there. Majority of the ethnic-based ones are NMSDC, but we did allow some state certifications as well if they were really, really small local products. But again, the intent is to raise awareness. The intent is not to say that these products are any better than any other products, but they are. It's to allow our consumers to easily shop their values.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can say this, we advocate for businesses. Again, your company, your organization, or corporation has been an avid supporter of minority businesses. And this is just a wonderful thing to do, because and particularly, and I'll speak for African American businesses, you don't know oftentimes when you go into a store if that product is owned by an African American business, because there is no African American aisle in any supermarket. And so the fact that Giant Foods is actually highlighting our brands, I think it's a wonderful thing. And I ask all minority-owned businesses that are on this call today, or anyone that's on this call today, let's support our Black-owned businesses during this phase. And when's the Hispanic one coming?
It should be out this month too. I believe in February we're going to wrap it up with the women-owned and the veteran-owned, but I believe the Hispanic and Asian rolled out in January. Black was our first one in December. So it's been a nice, slow, methodical rollout because it's a lot of items, and we keep adding products every week, which is wonderful.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's the bottom line. And if we support our businesses, Giant keeps actually obtaining these products. And so it is a domino effect, and it's up to us to buy us. And so thank you, Kay, for dropping through today to tell us about this great initiative. Congratulations. You're a true visionary. When we have time, we'll bring you back and talk about your career and how you've been advocating for quite some time. But this, I think, is just an awesome, awesome project. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thanks to the NMSDC that allows us to identify these products as we're going through our process as well. So thanks so much.
Okay, wonderful. And we want to thank all of our sponsors for today, for particularly MBDA sponsoring this event. But our title sponsor, Exelon, which is BGE and Exelon Holding. You'll see Southwest Airlines, because we're giving away some Southwest tickets. And you'll see on the screen like Amicus, Hilton, Capital One, CompuGain, JDC Events, SB and Company, and Stroud & Priest, our major sponsors. But in our next slide, you'll see very quickly, we have a gamut of a lot of different sponsors as well. And we thank all of them, because without our sponsors, we could not do what we do in terms of advocating for our businesses and positioning our businesses for growth. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what today is about. If we can go to the next slide, which talks about our topic for today, PPP, new rules and all that matters. I'd like for Antonio Doss to kind of join us at the moment. Antonio, as you're coming on, in December. Good morning, Antonio. Thank you for joining us today. And Antonio, you're if you can, I think you're muted for just a moment.
I was, and so it's good to be here this morning with you, Sharon.
Okay, and Antonio, you've become kind of a fixture for us because once we get a hold to a go-to person, that person that's knowledgeable about those things in our arena, we're very, very much appreciative of that. You know, Antonio, in December, Congress passed and Trump signed into law the new round of PPP. And it's been a slew of changes that have come along with the program. And so we've asked you to come on today to talk about that a little bit and then talk about some other changes. I know there's changes about yesterday was a wonderful day in terms of the change in guard. Right now, understand that Isabel Guzman is being vetted for SBA administrator. And so we know that there are great, great things to come. And so I will kind of turn it over to you to have the conversation about what's in the pipeline. And then we'll be back with some questions. And ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and start. As you go a long way, certainly put your questions in the right chat place. So thank you very, very much. Before we go, let's do a poll. Let's see who we're talking about. See who we're talking to. And our poll question is, if you're an MBE, did you receive a PPP loan in 2020? Ladies and gentlemen, if you can go ahead and do that for us, it just gives a perspective about who we are. And we're going to take another poll during, Antonio is going to take a poll during his presentation as well. But this is just a quick poll so we know who we're talking to. Antonio, you're kind of in demand. So you have, I know you have some other things coming down the pipeline as well.
Yes, yeah, that bringing PPP back up definitely gets us much more involved.
Yeah, and it seems like it is very involved. So it looks from here, Antonio, that 68% of the people that are on listening to us right now did receive a loan in 2020. So it looks like they may be candidates for round two, but there seem like there's some who did not apply as well, and maybe there are opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. This is it's good to see the results there. Thanks everybody for providing the information. You know, one of the things that we learned from the PPP last year, of course, when it came on board, it was, you know, if you think about where we were last March, we were dealing with, you know, the onset of the pandemic. You know, a lot of people were just learning how to pronounce coronavirus and what COVID-19 was, even though we were in the year 2020. And there was a heavy fear about so many aspects of our life, our health, our business. And the PPP program, along with our economic injury disaster loan programs, they were really pretty key to giving a boost of confidence for a lot of businesses. In fact, we had over 51 million workers across the country that were supported behind the PPP loan program. So that's a, you know, very wide reach for us, and our numbers indicate 80% of small businesses across the country took advantage of some way or another of the PPP program. So that was really good to see. It doesn't mean that we had it perfect. You know, for those of you who applied for PPP or even our economic injury disaster loan, you know, you understand that we were, you know, literally building the plane as it went down the runway. Right. And we had a lot of success with it, but we realized there were some improvements to make. And in the slide deck, we can start now. I can highlight some of the things that we have done differently.
Okay, and I'll let you do that. And you're absolutely right. There was some bumpy roads ahead. And then in future webinars, we intend on having lenders, which is the other part of that segment, of how you go about doing this. So, but I'll let you take it away, Antonio. Thanks.
All right, excellent. We can go to the next slide. One of the things I do want to make sure everybody realizes that all the information that we share today is based on the information that we have available today. And so we don't anticipate the wide variety of changes that happened last year but we do know that there'll be additional rules that come forward. There'll be additional clarification, and we look forward to your participation in that process to let us know if there's things that we need to clarify a little bit more. So remember, it's as of today, and we'll go to the next slide. The big thing is just to remember sba.gov/PPP. Keep that hot and heavy on your browser, because that's the place where you're going to get the current information. If we have changes and where those changes are, they'll be posted right there. We can go to the next slide too. That what these first couple slides really speak to is one of the adjustments that we made was to intentionally try to make sure we got more of the smaller banks, smaller mission-based lenders active in the PPP program on the front end. So even though the program officially rolled out to everybody on Tuesday, it was opened up a week earlier to community financial institutions, CDFIs, and small minority bank lenders, so they could get on the front end of this and not be caught behind the major Wall Street banks and such. So next slide, please. The key date, of course, on that previous slide, and it's on this one as well, is March 31st. So if you're interested in a PPP loan, you have to do it by March 31st. And one of the things that we've done this year around is we have two different PPP loans, and they're called our first draw and also our second draw. So first draw really are for people who didn't get a loan last year. So if you didn't get a loan by August 9th of last year, you didn't get a loan under the PPP program in 2020. That's really when the program sunsetted last year. So we're opening it back open for anyone who has never gotten a PPP loan to come and apply this year. The process is going to take you back to your lender. So you're going to go back to either the same lender you used last year. If you didn't use your primary bank or financial institution for whatever reason, and they're up and running and it works better for you this year, you can go to them. You don't have to stay with whoever you had last year. One of the things that we'll talk about a little bit too is that we've expanded some of the things that are available expense-wise and tried to clarify some things. So I'll talk about that. One of the big things was last year, because of the way the programs rolled out, initially we didn't anticipate that we were going to really have a need for PPP as long as we did. The thinking was the coronavirus was going to be more of a spring event, and by hopefully summer, we had gotten past it, but obviously that wasn't the case. So we had these 2 8-week or 24-week covered periods, and depending on when you got your loan, that made that determination as to which period you'd have. Under the new round this year in 2021, as a borrower, you can actually say which covered period that you want to have covering for your loan, and we can certainly address that a little bit more. You can also do an increase if your original PPP loan was not fully funded, or maybe you didn't decide to take all of it for whatever reason. We'll go on to the next slide, please. So here's a couple of things that are different. New eligible entities. Probably the biggest one on here might be the 501c6 organizations, and getting a sense that most of you on this call are pretty active business owners. You probably engaged and maybe affiliated with a Chamber of Commerce. Chambers of Commerce were not eligible to get the funding last year, and we were really concerned that they were going to suffer, because if money gets tight, everybody looks for what can they cut back, and unfortunately, sometimes membership dues at a chamber are one of those things that would suffer. So there are the ability now for chambers to actually participate in this program and to receive PPP funding. The news organizations is really about small local news papers and such. It's not meant for national news organizations that you might think of as your regular media broadcast type entities. All of the other entities that we had last year continue to be eligible this year. So there's really no change in the others. Likewise, our size standards and other eligibility criteria are pretty much all still the same. There's a couple small adjustments which I'll cover. If we go to the next slide, that'll help. So we also have, as I mentioned before, a second draw PPP loan. So this is for someone who did get a loan last year, but they still have a need this year. The real big thing with this one is you have to be able to identify and demonstrate with documentation that your business incurred a decrease in gross revenues of 25% as a minimum, or in some cases, obviously, it'll be more than 25%. So this is, it's probably, the first big measuring stick that you have to cross. If your revenues relatively were flat, you dropped your revenues 2 or 3 or 5%, you're really not going to be eligible for a second draw PPP loan. If you lost 30% of your revenue or 40% of your revenues, we know, certainly in some of the retail food services, probably in a lot of the areas where, you're dealing with tourism and things, it's definitely possible that your business suffered more than 25%. So you'd be eligible. And essentially what we're doing is we're saying it's 2.5 times your average monthly payroll costs on an annualized basis between 2019 and 2020. As I mentioned before about the accommodation and food service sector, those ones actually we're going to give even a higher amount of the payroll, PPP payroll program, by saying it's going to be 3.5 times your average monthly payroll cost. And again, these second draw loans are going to be capped at $2 million. Now, all of the loans will require the borrower to complete an SBA loan application form. It is still a very, very short, small one-page form that doesn't really require a lot of heavy information. It's pretty straightforward and easy. If you've done it last year, you'll find it equally similar in terms of being easy to do this year. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So again, for eligibility, you have to have gotten a PPP loan last year. So here's a couple other pieces to this as well. You have to have used your first draw loan already. And it has to be already dispersed. You can't have more than 300 employees. And again, back to the 25% reduction in revenue, that's still going to be your marker that you'll have. And we'll go to the next slide. So from a forgiveness perspective, you're going to apply through your normal lender, just like you would have already perhaps in this past year. A couple of changes. One of them was the EIDL advance. So one of the things that, to be honest with you, we didn't quite realize it was going to play out this way last year when we first talked about it. If you got an economic injury disaster loan advance last year, and you also got a PPP loan, when it came time for forgiveness, let's say you got $10,000 as a advance, economic injury disaster loan advance. Well, that $10,000 was reduced from the amount of your forgiveness. So in essence, it put you on the hook for $10,000 more than if you did not get the advance. So we've corrected that in this particular round. We won't do that again. And there's also a process, internal process underway to make sure that we're not penalizing those who had that happen to them already. So there's communications that'll go with those borrowers to let them know how they can get their prior year's reduction adjusted back. And at this point, there's not much that they have to do. That's pretty much something we're going to be doing directly for them. Also, the forgiveness is not a taxable income for the business. I know there were some concerns about that last time. Well, if I got a PPP loan, is that like I got income that I have to recognize and tax? And the answer is no, but we also always recommend, you're in touch with the IRS rules and such for that. We don't fully, try to speak for the IRS. It's never quite a good idea unless you're a CPA or somebody who's really got those credentials. And we don't have those credentials at SBA. And there's some additional flexibility in terms of forgiveness of what qualifies this go round also for your deductions. So there's now additional expenses that include like your supplier expenses. We've provided additional clarification on things like property damage. So maybe you're in a location where, you know, some of the civil unrest affected your physical building location, and you've had to expend funds to, you know, repair front doors of your building or glass or whatever it might be. Those are now part of what can be covered under this particular program. Supplier costs are also something that can be covered, and other operational expenses. We clarified software, you know, cloud computing, HR accounting needs. Those are also now one of the items that are considered to be forgivable. The forgiveness split is still at 60-40. So you have to use 60% of the funding for payroll. That's the marker. If you're going to get 100% forgiveness, you have to at least use 60% for payroll and then 40% for the other forgivable expenses. If you don't hit 60%, let's say you only have 50% of the forgiveness amount, then you're going to get less in forgiveness, and it'll be based on the difference between that 50 and 60%. There's a calculation that we could walk through if necessary. That calculation and a lot of other information related to the forgiveness part is all listed in our PPP program information on our SBA website. So if I repeat it once, I'll try to repeat it again and a few more times. SBA.gov/PPP. That's the place where you'll see our interim final rules, and it's the place where you'll see all the information that'll help you make good informed decisions around how you're going to use these funds and whether you're applying or not applying and under what circumstances you qualify. If we can go to the next slide, please. So in terms of, you know, what do you need to do now? You know, it's back to your lender. If you don't have a lender, you're not really sure where to go. We have a program called Lender Match, which allows you to put a few bits of information about your company and your needs. And we have lenders who have access to that. They sourced clients through this particular program. And what they can do is see what your needs are and reach out to you to help you with your particular loan situation. We always recommend, as you're navigating, through these times, that you consult with one of our SBA resource partners. And there's a list there. If you follow the link here, you can see sba.gov/local assistance. And that gets you to SCORE, which is our group of mentors that volunteer, gets you to our small business development centers, our women's business centers, our veterans business outreach center, all of which are here to help you figure out how to address some of the challenges that you have. The counseling, coaching, mentoring that each of these entities provide is provided to you without a fee. And so if you're a small business and you don't have all the answers, if you have all the answers, you probably don't need even to be on this call. But if you don't have all the answers, you know, consult one of our resource partners. They're great about helping you. That's what they do day in and day out. And they really care about trying to help a business get to the next level. So I think with that, I've probably covered everything for the overview of the PPP changes, and we'll get ready to move into some discussion about some of the legislative changes.
Thank you, Antonio. I just want to make sure that people hold on to questions, and we're going to answer questions at the end. You're going to go into your next segment and leading with a poll, because there are a lot of things that are happening that we're trying to get in. And so so hold on. We're going to open up to a Q&A after this second segment. Thanks, Antonio.
Sure thing. Alrighty, so as we get into our legislative and regulatory update section, there's been quite a bit of changes that have happened lately. And I think maybe this might be a good time if the poll is ready to push that out. Yes. So how do you see your firm's federal contracting opportunities? Just trying to get a sense of things. So, you know, it's been a crazy year in 2020. We're at 2021. Are things trending up? Do you have a pipeline of activity that makes you feel pretty good? Have you been treading water and it's about the same as the last few years, which in some cases actually can be pretty good, or is it trending down? And with the magic of the polling, we'll have a response very soon. All right, so 28, this is probably a very even amount here. 28% up, 23% about the same, and 27% down. And then there's a group that's this is not applicable. Perhaps you're not that much into the federal contracting space. So thank you for that. That's good to have a sense about where people see their business at this point. Okay, we're ready to jump in. I wanted to make sure you guys were aware that there have been really a pretty wide swath of changes in our regulations. Some of it have been legislatively mandated. Some of it's kind of internal things that we had already had in place, but we maybe didn't really clarify them as well as we should have. And we put them back out for everybody to understand where things really lay. So for the mentor protege program and joint ventures, there's a couple things here I want to make sure I highlight. One is that we've consolidated the 8A mentor protege program and what we call the all small mentor protege program into just one mentor protege program. And for a quick background, probably 7-8 years ago, the Congress had really had SBA move to take and put in place a mentor protege program that included entities outside of the 8A program, because the 8A program was the only mentor protege program that we had in place. And so initially it was going to be just for women-owned businesses and just for veteran-owned businesses, and we ultimately had it for all small businesses. And we were directed to mirror the program after the 8A program. Well, we've mirrored it well enough to the point where there's really not a reason to have two separate ones. So in 2021, there's just a mentor protege program, not a separate 8A or all small mentor protege program. Some of the changes that also related to it includes that as a mentor protege, under an agreement with the mentor protege agreement, you can now actually have a secondary NAICS code as long as the firm actually qualifies in that NAICS code and they perform work, they've got a track record. So that was one of the limits that was there before that's been removed. We've eliminated completely the need for joint ventures to be reviewed for competitive awards. And the vast majority of all of our joint venture requests for the 8A program were always about competitive contract awards. So what this means is it puts the onus back on the small business to really make sure that they're entering into an agreement with an entity that they've got a reasonable amount of trust, understanding, and that they fashion a joint venture agreement in a way to make sure you're protecting your own best interest. One of the things that we typically would do at the district level, district office level at SBA, was to just really make sure that the small business wasn't somehow or another being put in a position where the larger firm may have been able to kind of take advantage of the small business. So, you're going to have to make sure you do that, more thoroughly. Mostly you'll probably work with an attorney. But what it means also is it's a quicker process because you don't have to wait for SBA to go through our approval process. Also for mentor proteges, one of the things that happens is just like any kind of relationship, sometimes you kind of go on a date with another organization. It looks like things are great. You sign up with a mentor protege agreement. And then 6 months into it, you realize that that other entity really isn't likely to live up to the expectations that you had when you went into it. So now you can kind of dissolve that and it won't count against the number of relationships that you can have in that amount of time. It also prevents a mentor from, with more than one protege from submitting multiple competing offers. Some of the larger mentors will have more than one mentee, and they can, and they should be in separate NAICS codes, but sometimes, there could be cases where they cross over. There's also been always what's called a 3 and 2 rule. You could have no more than 3 contract awards under the joint venture in a 2-year period. So we've now eliminated that. And now you can have as many awards as you can get within that 2-year period. One of the big things that we had on the 8A program is the extension. This is a legislative piece that came as a part of the economic aid that just was passed, Economic Aid Act that was passed in December. So we've extended the term of the 8A program participation 1 year, and this is just for firms who are already in the program, and we're in the program up until basically September 9th, and it allows those firms to add a year as a result of the whole COVID-19 environment that we were in. Another couple big changes is the qualifications of the 8A program. We had not adjusted qualifications of the 8A program for a lot of years. And so the net worth calculation has been adjusted to be up to 750,000. It was at 250,000 as a disadvantaged business owner. If you had more than $250,000 in net worth, you could not be eligible for the program. So that's been increased to 750,000, which is the same level it is for women-owned small businesses who are looking to get certified as an economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. So we have more parity between the two of those now. And in addition to that, we've taken out the retirement accounts as part of that calculation. So a lot of people would have a lot of money in their retirement accounts, maybe not a lot of money in some other places, but you could have been somewhat penalized for having a good retirement plan. And so that's gone as well. Sort of back more in between agency perspective is clarifying what gets into the program and how it goes out of the program. There's a tagline that is often spoken that says, once 8A, always 8A. And some of our federal agencies, like that, and some of them like to be able to have the flexibility to remove things from the program. So we've created better clarity around how that happens if a contract has already been in the 8A program, how it goes afterwards. Okay, next slide, please. Women-owned small business. So we've eliminated the self-certification. If you're trying to get a sole source award, a set-aside award under the women-owned small business or the economic disadvantaged women-owned small business, you have to get certified by SBA. That part went into effect last fall. There's a lot of information again on our website. You're going to use the certified.sba.gov to get you into that space, and that should help confirm that you've got the appropriate status. And so if you have questions on that, certainly go to our sba.gov WOSB website, and you can see a lot more information there. The Hubzone program also had really quite a bit of changes. So one of the challenges that we've had with the Hubzone program, which is the one program that we've yet to make our statutory contracting goal, we haven't really even quite got close, but we're getting closer than we had been in more recent years. We're a little more than halfway to the goal instead of being 20% towards the goal. And so one of the things we tried to do was to create more opportunities to help make sure the firms are clearly in the program, that they understand that they're in the program, that we can help minimize protests, which affect the timing of contract awards, and in some cases, I think even affect the willingness of contracting officials to put things in the Hubzone program, because no one really wants to go through the protest process because it slows everything down, and we're all trying to get work done, one and done, as opposed to remedial action where you're going back and forth. So you see here this first bullet requiring that 35% of the employee are in a Hubzone at the time of the certification, and the Hubzone firm has to demonstrate that it has attempted to maintain that standard during the contract performance. So we're giving a little bit additional leeway there. One of the things I was very excited about was also that if you're a business and you decide to purchase a building or enter into a long-term lease arrangement in a Hubzone location, then you're going to get status as a Hubzone firm for 10 years. One of the challenges, of course, before was you may have established a lease or even decide to buy a building in a lower moderate income census tract, which would be a Hubzone census tract, only to find out a year later, somehow or another that was no longer a Hubzone qualified census tract. You've invested in a space that doesn't help you in this program. And by investing in this space now, you're also helping to put roots into a community, and that can only be a good thing to have businesses in those markets. So I'm glad to see about that. We've frozen the Hubzone maps through 2021, and Hubzone status is required now in the dynamic small business search at the time of offer, not at the time of the award. That was another thing that would slow things down. Now we've moved to an annual recertification process. So if you're certified at the time that we do the certification of your firm, you're good for that full year period. You don't have to worry about, maybe I could have gotten certified when I put in my offer, but now that I've gotten the award and have come back and checked it, and I don't no longer qualify as a Hubzone firm, we've kind of taken care of that by saying we're going to do the annual certification. And on top of that, we're going to say that certification has to be in place at the time of the offer, not at the time of the award. I think that might be my last slide on the reg changes.
Yeah, Antonio, I think that's a lot to unpack. There seems to be a lot going on here.
It's been a extremely busy quarter for us.
And more to come. I know that there are a lot of questions that are out there. To be honest with you, we may have to bring you back, Antonio, because not only with the new payroll protection program, with the new regulatory things, I know it sparked a lot of questions, but we're going to attempt to take some of those questions right now. We have what I call our question whisperers. Tommy Marks, who is our director of our Federal Procurement Center. And for those who don't know, we have a Federal Procurement Center funded by the U.S. Department of Commerce, the only one of its kind in the country. And we also have our CARES Act project director, Sonia Bigelow-Smith, who also acts as our director of business development for the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council. Tommy and Sonia, I know that there's been a lot of questions, so we will let you guys go and be the wizard behind the screen. But before you go, one of the things that Antonio talked about is how we deal with supporting firms that are doing federal contracting, as well as on our private sector side, those who want to diversify their business. Another conversation another day, but just to put some nuggets in their heads. And so just wanted to share that with you. Do we have any questions coming down the pipe? I'm sure we do.
Yes, we do, Sharon.
Go ahead, Sonia.
Thank you, Tommy. So yes, Antonio, thank you for a great wealth of information. We did have one question, several questions that have been coming through, so we'll try to certainly get through as many of these as we can. The first question is, if we didn't qualify, if a firm did not qualify PPP loan last year, should they reapply this year if they met some challenges with qualifying last year?
They certainly can look to requalify. It's going to be a question of what were the reasons that they weren't able to qualify last year. So if they had a bankruptcy or issue, or somehow they were involved in a business activity that's not legal, not something that SBA and the federal government would accept, you're still going to have those challenges. But if it was something else within your application process, it's certainly worth having that conversation. And again, that's something you can talk to your lender about. You can also talk to us at SBA, and you can talk to our resource partners about that.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to Tommy.
Okay, one of the things I want to also add is that there are also monies available that continue to be available on the local jurisdictional side as well. And they can contact us to learn about what's available in DC and Maryland and Virginia as well.
Excellent.
Antonio, or question comes from about the woman-owned small business arena. And the question is, can we share the reason for elimination of sole source contracts for the program?
Well, so the sole source contract piece still exists. It's how you can be approved to be able to get that. So what we decided to do was make sure we absolutely had confirmation that a woman-owned business met that criteria in order to be able to say that they were economically disadvantaged. Well, not economically disadvantaged, but they were a women-owned small business, period. And for those particular NAICS codes for which we can do the sole source awards. We had a more broad approval process. There was self-certification process. And we thought it was just best to not have self-certification be the guide that lets a business, women-owned business, say that they do actually have that representation without SBA going through the approval process.
Sonia?
Great. Yes, thank you. So there is another question that came in around the PPP loan and the forgiveness. If the must the first round of the PPP loan be forgiven before applying for a second round?
No, you can do sort of both at the same time. Given the timing of when a business may decide to submit a forgiveness request, it may overlap with the time that they realize they need to require or need to request new money under the second draw program this year. And there could be a period of time where it's going to take the SBA and the lender to go through the forgiveness process. So we didn't want to penalize a business because we hadn't finished the forgiveness process and making them ineligible for a second draw. They can do both the second draw while the forgiveness process is underway. Even if the forgiveness process hasn't begun, they can still go for the second draw.
That's good to know. Next
Antonio,
question.
this was on the 8A program. Understanding that as long as I was an 8A company by September the 9th, 2020, and before, I can get that 1 year extension for a 10th year. How does one apply for that? Is the question.
So if you were already in the program up until that September date, you're going to you should probably have already gotten a communication that said, we're giving you the extra year. I should also add that because we didn't come out with our regulation on this until Congress, obviously put the act in place in December. They gave us, I think, 15 days to put a regulation in place. And that took place, I think, the 13th of January. So even if you were in the program up until the 13th of January, because of our regulatory date, we're also going to let those businesses get additional year. The catch is those businesses will actually, because they had already been out of the program by that time, they will need to, if they graduated, let's say between October and January, they were out of the program, they'll have to submit a request to say, let me back in so I can get the extra year's time for my firm. And anyone that has, really significant questions on this, because I know it's a little bit different, it's confusing. If you're on the cusp of not being in the program, it's also kind of invigorating that, whoa, I got an extra, period of time to be in the program. I highly recommend you reach out to your local business opportunity specialist or BOS in the district office that services your firm.
Great. Antonio, another question came over in reference to, we've got some firms on here that are interested in contracting opportunities with the SBA. How should they inquire, or where should they look for to identify opportunities for contracting?
Contracting opportunities at SBA, one of the things that I do want to just kind of say is that, we're a name that's larger than our budget. We're a really small agency, so our contracting opportunities are much more limited, but we do still have them. So you use all the same contracting sourcing techniques that you'd use, whether you're going for something at NASA or Health and Human Services as you would for the SBA. Whether you're using a particular search engine or you're using our federal procurement data system data, you can look and see what the trends are, what kind of work we've been doing, We've got a new administration coming in, so a lot of times that may also mean new initiatives and things. So, pay attention and see if there's some things that might be coming out. We're clearly a very huge small business participating entity when it comes to contracts. We're always in the 70s and 80% range of all of our contracts going to small businesses.
Okay, we can take a couple more questions.
Antonio, this one's on the PPP, about the 25% reduction in revenue. And the bottom line is, as they understand it, it's a quarter from 2019 to 2020. The question is, do we have the flexibility that I can prove any quarter during this time frame on that 25% reduction?
Yeah, hats off to the questioner. That's a really good question. We're trying to make this reasonable. So we realize that the wave of PPP across the country, the need with all that was going on with the pandemic last year may have hit at different points in time. So it's like quarters. Maybe third quarter was just absolutely terrible for you and your business. And you can demonstrate a change between third quarter 2019 and third quarter 2020. That's sufficient to demonstrate the 25%. In some cases, it may be more appropriate even to use the annualized all 4 quarters together, and you can compare fiscal 19 or calendar year 19 to calendar year 20. But you can't cherry pick. So you can't say it's 25% difference between second quarter 2019 and fourth quarter 2020. It has to be the same quarter.
Okay. We have time for maybe 2 more questions because we have to honor our sponsor, Southwest Airlines. And I know I had technical difficulties in the beginning. So in case you don't know, we're giving away 2 tickets today, but you have to be present to win. And so we have time for maybe 2 more questions, and we will get back to you with any unanswered questions in our wrap up when we post our information on YouTube.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. And actually, there are tons of questions coming through for you, Antonio. So I'm going to try to grab, let's see here. We did have a question about the new application. Can you talk a little bit about, is it more streamlined, shorter, or more detailed than the previous one?
It really looks almost exactly the same. I think the only major change I could really see was we identified clearly those other costs, like we talked about supplier costs that are now appropriate for the program. We talked about other operational costs, including the cost to damaged, physical structures that you may have experienced, or meaning like property damage, the software kind of costs that we talked about. Those are more clearly identified, but otherwise it's pretty much the exact same thing as it was before. Very straightforward, not a lot of detail. It's the easiest loan application I think you're going to run into anywhere.
Okay, so I guess it'll be the final question, Antonio. It is why such a significant difference? Why is there still a difference between the A and C 8As and the non A and C 8As? I think it has to deal, with revenue impact.
Yeah, that would be easily a loaded question, and one that probably takes way more time than we'll have before we get to Southwest Airlines. But one of the major differences really gets back into the charter that exists associated with the Alaska Native corporations. They follow all the same rules as everything else does, but there's some things built within the whole ANC charter. And when I guess technically when Alaska was adopted as a state, there were some things that were different there. So it's kind of complicated, but I hear what you're saying in terms of the dollar amount thresholds that are available for ANC firms versus non-ANC firms. And so it's more than I could really address very quickly.
Okay, and that's conversation for absolutely another time, because you could make the case of, for example, the Black-owned firms suffer a disadvantage. And so can that be constructed for that as well? But that's another conversation, but it's a new day, new rules in DC. And so you never can tell what happens, right?
That's right.
So does that mean that Senator Ben Cardin is now the chair of the Small Business Committee?
He would now be the chair of the Small Business Committee. And, he's been a very effective member and a leader of it as the ranking member. So, we're looking forward to working with him. He's got the state of Maryland, which is part of our district office territories in the state of Maryland. So we always enjoy working with Senator Cardin and his team.
Yeah, he's been very, very, very effective, and so we're happy that our senior senator from Maryland is going to be heading chair of that committee. So very, very good. And you are our senior subject matter expert that we always enjoy. So Antonio, thank you for dropping by. Thank you for these true nuggets of information. Where a lot of people are hearing it first. It is complicated to continue to unpack. I'm sure we'll be having more conversations because there's a lot more information. But thank you for your time today.
Well, and thank you for the venue to help provide information to people, because I know it's needed at this point.
Anytime. I know it's an ongoing conversation.
Excellent. Thank you.
So next, thank you. Talk to you soon. Next on deck, we're going to give away some tickets, so don't go away. I'm going to bring on Sonia Bigelow-Smith, who is going to, on behalf of Southwest Airlines, give away 2 tickets. Have to be present to win. Don't embarrass us. Please be here. Sonia, and then after that, please don't go away. I know we're going to be a little bit over just by maybe 2 minutes. I want to tell you about some upcoming things. So hold on for just a moment. Don't go.
Great. And thank you, audience, for hanging in there with us. And this is actually very real time, because Sharon just extended. We are going with 2 tickets today, and you must be present to win. So thanks everyone for your amazing questions. We will address as many of those as we can on the back end, and share that with you on our website at www.crmsdc.org. Now, first, I am pleased to be here today to share 2 lucky winners on behalf of Southwest Airlines. Southwest is our official airline of CRMSDC and one of our longest standing partners. The vouchers awarded have no restrictions or blackout dates and can be used in 101 destinations in 10 countries. Before I announce the winner, of course, you know that we always have disclaimers. The first one is you must be present to win. You cannot be a government employee nor a political official. So without further ado, I'm going to award 2 individuals with Southwest Airlines vouchers. And we're going to go with our first one is number 49. The 49 represents our years in existence. We're on the heels of 50. NMSDC began in 1972. So we're excited to award Mr. Patrick Brailford. If you're on the line, please unmute yourself or type your name in the chat to acknowledge your prize. Mr. Patrick Brailford. And we'll just hold. Hello, Patrick.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, congratulations. You're one of our recipients of our Southwest Airlines voucher.
Wow, thank you. I'm much obliged.
Great. Well, our team will be back in touch with you. We have all of your information, and we'll be back in touch with you to make sure that you have all the details to receive your prize. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Great. And our next recipient will be audience member 101. 101 represents the number of destinations that you can fly on Southwest Airlines, and that individual is Randy Jackson. Is Mr. Jackson here and available? If so, please unmute your line or type in the chat to claim your prize. Mr. Randy Jackson. And I do see that he's available. Randy, can you hear us? We may be having some technical difficulties. There he is.
Yes, I can hear you. Oh my God. One
All
of my
right.
commitments in a second. I was so
No,
excited.
no
okay.
worries. Thank you for being here, Randy, and congratulations to you. We'll be back in touch with you.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
very timely, Randy. We were about to take that ticket, so glad you showed up.
Yes, and thank you, Sharon, for the opportunity. And again, thank you, Southwest Airlines, for these gracious awards and for being a longstanding partner of ours. Thank
Okay.
you.
But wait, there's more. If we
There's-
go to the next slide, we want to first thank everyone that's was here today. Please remember to go to Giant Foods. We're going to send out more information about that. And here's Kate Weaver's email address, Antonio Doss. But Antonio also tell you where to go. Any questions for us, COVID-19@crmscc.org. I want to also thank, in conjunction with our segment with Giant, Joan Harrison, who is our Director of Corporate Services, and our entire team as we put on these webinars. If we can keep going to the next slide. Here, I shared with you in the beginning, we have 13 other hot sheets live that is still filled with robust information that you may want to listen to or see at your leisure. We encourage you to do that. And then we're going to explore the world of podcasts. And we have some great things that are coming up with our podcast scenario, as well as our newsletter. And so we're talking to Victor Hoskins. If you remember Victor, he was one who bought Amazon to the area. But we're still looking for mentor proteges and proteges with our CRMSTC Lift as We Climb program. For more information, email us at crmstc@crmstc.org. Those who have expressed an interest, hold on, we're coming to you. The next information later on this year and coming in 2021, we have the Ultimate Business Makeover that's looking how we do a deeper dive in helping some companies that need a lifeline right now. And we have some other events that are coming on, like our matchmaker. And with Southwest Airlines, we are going to get back on that plane and fly our certified minority businesses to another destination to do business. So if you want to know more about that or talk to some folks that we have done this with, please let us know. Or if you're not certified with us, contact Errol Taylor, who is our Director of MBE Services, and our Program Manager, who's also there, Christine Bivens. So thank you to Nicole for all your beautiful graphics, and Latoya for your help, and of course, Latoya Moore, Nicole, Miles, and Jacob Brown, and all of CRMSTC team. Our corporate members, again, we could not do without you and all that you do. This is just a snapshot of our corporate members. And thank you again. And particularly our title sponsors. Here are our websites, and we will see you again sometime soon, because guess what? There is still an awful lot to talk about. There's still some things that we can share that would help you to grow your business, which will further our mission in supporting minority businesses and our corporate and government members in populating their pipeline with minority businesses. Thank you, and see you next time. And appreciate you staying with us.